Mike Schneider Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Tim Alexiel. You probably recognize him from some of my older videos if you've been following for a long time, since like, I don't know, 2008 or something like that. We've been fingerboarding together for a really long time, so he's definitely an OG. And yeah, we are excited to have a chat and learn all about Tim.
Yay, thanks for having me over.
Yeah, so awesome. Yeah, it's really cool that you came back into the scene recently and have been fingerboarding again.
Yeah, I took quite a long break there. So around 2013, I kind of moved out of the area, and that meant moving away from people like you and Jay, the people I hung out with and fingerboarded a lot with. And I kind of just let it go to the wayside from there. And yeah, recently, after being away for so long, I had the urge to fingerboard again, and yeah, here we are.
Yep.
Yep.
So you find that fingerboarding is more of a social thing for you then?
I don't know if it's more of a social thing, but it was definitely more motivating to have a place to go where it was more dedicated to fingerboarding, rather than just sitting at home at my desk in front of the computer messing around with it.
Yeah.
I think that's primarily what it was for me.
Yeah, I find like for me it's like a mix. Like I love fingerboarding by myself, and then as soon as that gets boring, you fingerboard with one person and it's like so exciting again, and then they're both, it's like you want to fingerboard by yourself and with people.
Yeah, so. I mean, you can sit at home and work on tricks, you know, all the time, but if you can build towards something and then, you know, take that trick you've worked on and go show it to your friends, it's way more fun to do that. It's a little bit more motivating. Or if you're having trouble with something, then maybe you have the motivation when you're with people to get it.
Like real skateboarding.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. So take us back to the beginning.
So yeah, I started skateboarding in November of 2000 when I was 15, and I'm 37 now, so that was quite a long time ago. I didn't really fingerboard seriously then. I definitely had tech decks and stuff. You know, you start skateboarding, you see a toy of, you know, your skateboard with your graphic on it, and you want to buy that. So in high school, I had a friend, his name was Joe, and he started skateboarding a little bit after I did, but he was really into tech decks. And so I kind of started to learn more tricks, actual tricks, because of him. We would play around in biology class and steal the teacher's stapler, and she was not very thrilled with that. And for the time, it wasn't really anything I took seriously. It was just a toy. And then fast forward to 2007, I was working for a friend in his skate shop, and it was really boring. No one really came in that much. And I had a tech deck, and I made a conscious decision to see how good I could get with it. And every day I was just in the shop, just playing with this tech deck, learning different tricks. Someone made me some rails that were probably about 8 inches tall.
Whoa.
And I learned how to do flips and the grinds and stuff with those rails, and from then it kind of just evolved into other stuff. I started filming some videos in probably late 2007, filmed my first mini video, and learned that, you know, there were wooden boards and bearing wheels and stuff out there. So I said, let's see what this is about. Started putting all the pieces together. Here we are.
Yeah. So 2007 was a lot different than it is now.
Yeah.
Where did you post your first video?
I posted it on YouTube, but I also found FFI somehow around the same time. Mm-hmm. And I have no recollection of how I even got there or figured out that the forum was a thing. I remember the Tech Deck chat room from back in the early 2000s, but I was never on like a Tech Deck forum or anything like that. So yeah, I posted it on there, and I think I put some stupid comment at the end of it about being lame, and Black River commented on the video and asked why I was lame, and I said it was a joke, but it really had no answer for them.
Dang, that's pretty big, getting a comment from Black River, like first try.
Yeah, must have been good. I think around the time the Lakai video came out, and I really wanted to try a bunch of the tricks I saw in that on a fingerboard, and somehow some of those made it in there. I don't have the video anymore, so I can't show anyone, but I think it was okay for first try.
Yeah, that's awesome. You want to take us back to before fingerboarding and just give a little background, like what kind of upbringing did you have? You know, like where were you? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Iowa. There wasn't a whole lot to do there. As a kid, we'd go to like the roller skating rink a lot, or there was a bowling alley that was behind our house. We'd go there and play arcade games and whatnot. And then around 2000, November 2000 is when I started skateboarding. I dabbled in it a little bit before that. I had a friend who had a skateboard, like a legit skateboard. He had a complete out of the CCS. I think it was just CCS blank and like some Grind King trucks. And I don't remember what wheels, but he ended up giving that to me when I was a freshman in high school. And me and my friend John were just like, yep, we're going to start skateboarding. And he got a birdhouse complete with a bunch of crazy stuff on it. And we just started learning to skate. It was great.
All right, so basically you started skateboarding, and then how much was skating part of your life?
Skating was a pretty big part of my life once I started. That was kind of all I wanted to do. And that's a pretty similar story with a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
But I always had different hobbies as a kid. I used to draw a lot. That was kind of my primary hobby, was just doing different art. And then at some point I really wanted to learn how to play guitar. And I started doing that, and I started skateboarding at the same time. And I started to get better at skateboarding faster. And it was just more accessible. You could go skateboarding anywhere. I could go skateboarding in front of my high school in the morning, and then after school I could go wherever. And that was pretty much all I did throughout high school, was just go skateboarding. You know, some of my other friends, they'd go party and whatever, and I was never into that. Most of the time I just spent by myself in an empty parking lot with me and my skateboard, and it was, yeah, a little bit obsessive over it for a while.
Yeah.
But it's taken me to a lot of different places. I've met a lot of interesting people through it. And then subsequently from skateboarding, I got into fingerboarding, and I've met even more people. So it's been a pretty interesting journey, I would say, with skateboarding.
Definitely. Yeah. Who are some of these interesting people you've met?
Well, you, for one.
That doesn't count.
Doesn't count?
No. Well, what about through skateboarding?
You're one. Through skateboarding, I mean, no one's gonna know who they are. They're not famous.
No, that doesn't matter.
Anything,
but like, you probably have a cool interaction or something that stands out, or like, I don't know, any like core memories. Like you saw somebody do, I don't know, their first tray flip in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, one nice memory I have from skateboarding, I was at a demo. So where I grew up, if you went about 30 miles north, you'd end up in Des Moines. And Des Moines had this roller rink there called Skate South. And we'd have demos there from different teams all the time. And there was specifically one demo. It was just a bunch of random people. Brian Herman was there. And I remember watching him do this nollie nose manual on this really tall box, and just being blown away by that, because he was going so slow, it seemed, and yet he was able to do this really hard trick so perfectly. And he was also wearing some really cool navy and gum Reynolds 1 America shoes that I always wanted and could never find. But that trick was just crazy to me. And it's a pretty basic trick, but the way he did it really stuck with me. And when I tried to learn that trick later on in life, I kind of had a really good reference point for it. So that was fun. Demos were always fun.
Yeah, I miss demos. Like that used to be a thing. I feel like it's not that common anymore.
No, I don't think so. But maybe that'll change. Who knows?
Yeah, I wonder why demos went away, because it's like a concert. Like people still go to concerts, you know? It's like you want to see the thing that you like and you want to see it happen in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
It's like super cool, and it's more inspiring than just seeing a video for sure. It's like a whole different level. You get to see like how many tries it takes them and their attitude and like the energy.
It's wild. I remember at a demo, my friend Joe, again, who got me into fingerboarding, was a really big fan of Heath Kirchart, and he he would just go up to people and talk to him. He didn't care. He's like, "Hey, Heath Kirchart, why don't you go crooked grind this thing?" And Heath just shut him down. It's like, no. Like, why would I do that when I could nose blunt it? Like, I don't know. Why wouldn't you? Oh, look who's back.
Rhombus is back.
But yeah, I've met a lot of different pros at demos and whatever. And in the beginning, it was cool, just run around and get people's autographs. But then when you get older, you can actually have some conversations with them when you're not as nervous.
Yeah.
I remember specifically meeting Ben Gilly, who rode for Black Label at the time. He just kind of walked up and he was like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" I was like, "Why is this person talking to me? I don't know." But that was cool. He was a cool guy. And I got to talk to Chris Cole once, and he's always been one of my favorite skaters. Whoa. So that was a fun experience. So
that's awesome. Yeah. He's a big one. I feel like your skate and fingerboard style is like kind of very like conscious of the style rather than like being super tech or something. Like, yeah, I feel like style is your game, kind of.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I can do some really technical tricks. It's not something I do all the time. Like, if you ever watch anything I film, you probably just see a lot of kickflips into things. One, because it's fun, and it's easy to do a really technical trick, but it's hard to do a really basic trick and do it really well, I think. And I think that's reflected in actual skateboarding too. Like, I'd rather watch someone do a really, really nice kickflip than a really sloppy kickflip crooked grind down whatever. You know, it's just, that's just my thing. I'm not sure why that is, but.
Well, it's cool. It's like, you know, everybody has their own style and stuff, and like your style is style. Like it's awesome. You make every trick look super good.
Oh, thank you.
You know,
I try very hard.
Well, I feel like it's kind of coming back. Like people care about that again. Like just watching videos and stuff, it's like, wow, that looked good. You know, not like there's always a place for like, you know, who can do the craziest trick or whatever. But to me, it's like if you're not making those crazy tricks look good, you might as well do something easier.
Yeah, I feel like
make it look better.
That's maybe just kind of the era in which we started fingerboarding too. I feel like around 2008, I started to see a lot of people were doing like switch hard flips into things and switch and nollie tray flips into things, and that's cool, especially if you can do it really well. But that's just not really my thing. I've certainly tried some of those tricks. I'm not very good at them, but try. And then nollie heel flips are like the bane of everyone's existence, and I blame Nick Herzog from his FFI Rail Jam. That's like what spawned all of it, because that nollie heel flip into nose grind is probably the best one that's ever been done and ever will be done. And I don't know how he did it. I asked him. He was like, you just flick your finger like this. Like, it can't be that simple. But, you know, not everyone's good at every trick, unfortunately. But that's what makes things interesting. I have been around some different people now that I've come back into fingerboarding and watched some newer videos. And for some people, it just seems like it's too easy. I see a lot of wild tricks. But that's cool too. I mean, gotta evolve. One thing, though, with some of those wild tricks in regard to filming and putting out videos, since I come from kind of a different background, I feel like you should save some of those tricks and make kind of a meaningful video part. That's way more interesting than just throwing it into some kind of a jam session. But unfortunately, I don't think that's really the way that people consume media anymore.
Yeah, that's been a theme in the last few people that I've talked to, and just when I'm hanging out with people in general, it's always like, especially all of us that have been doing it the longest, kind of, like we're like, you know, we want to see people put in effort into like a really special video, and then like really watch that video, probably watch it a second and third time because it's so good, and like pay attention to it fully. Like everything about the video should be good, the filming, the tricks, like. And now it's just like everything's so fast, so rapidly produced. It's just like boom, put a trick, put it on YouTube, put it on, I mean, Instagram, like, and then 2 days later, no one remembers it. And it's like
just like with skateboarding, something comes up on Thrasher, and then the next day it's gone, and you go try to find it. It's like, where did this video go?
It's like 30 videos deep already, and it's great that so much content is coming out, but it's also like the focus on quality, like in the long run. Like, what are you gonna remember 5 years from now and go back and watch? It's not going to be somebody's like quick TikTok clip. It's going to be like somebody's full part that they dedicated 2 years to, or like whatever, you know, or even in fingerboarding, dedicate a week to it, you know. I'm
still going back and watching skate video parts from the early 90s and just stuff I grew up with. Same with fingerboard stuff too. I'll go back and watch old stuff that we've all filmed together, and like that's, you know, if you think back, like the first Flatface video, all of us put a lot of effort into that, and that was like a 3 hour long video. So that's a bit too long,
right?
But to see people put that level of effort into something again would be awesome. Much more entertaining, especially for someone like me who doesn't care about social media. I don't have an Instagram, I don't do Facebook or Twitter, anything of that. I have a YouTube channel that I haven't touched since 2009, although I recently uploaded some of my old videos onto it.
But yeah, that's awesome. We'll put a link to it, and hopefully you'd like start working on a new part. Throw it on there in a couple months.
Hopefully.
That would be sick. You should do it. I mean, especially if we're going to talk about it, we got to like lead by example.
So. I mean, I definitely have some ideas. Pretty big motivator for me is just kind of music. I'll hear a cool song, and then suddenly you get bit with that bug where it's like, oh, I could put something together to this song. But then you hear another cool song, and suddenly you have ideas for 5 different video parts that might not happen, and then you have to make the horrible decision of whittling those songs down to one. And unfortunately for me, that never goes well. I always end up picking something completely random. So if you ever tried to judge my taste in music based solely on what videos I put out, I'm sorry, but it's just all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing. I have so much weird different music and stuff, but I'm noticing a theme here that people named Tim are very into their music.
I suppose, yeah. My musical tastes are really all over the place. I like a lot of old music, 70s, 80s stuff. It's good, but my primary music consumption genre has been different Japanese music from all over the place. I know that Japanese music kind of saw some new interest in around 2017 with people discovering city pop, which is just 70s and 80s J-pop, which is cool. It's nice to have easy access to that stuff, because when I first got into Japanese music, you had to go through all kinds of different hoops to try to find stuff. And I was the kind of person, like, I would just pick random things and I would like it no matter what, even if it was just completely off the walls, because it was different.
Cool.
But I like other stuff too. I like a lot of vaporwave stuff, just because it sounds old, and a lot of it is derived from old songs, just kind of chopped up. But that's fun.
Yeah, that's super fun. Do you speak Japanese?
I know a little bit, but I don't know enough to hold a conversation. I've tried to learn, and I always do really well for a couple months, and then I start to fall off and get lazy about it. But I do want to go to Japan next year, so I need to start putting some more effort into learning.
Cool.
But I know random bits and bobs. So,
yeah, that'll be awesome. I was gonna say, if you just go there, you'll learn it. So
yeah, I mean, listening to the music and just watching anime and stuff will help you learn faster, because you start to recognize words being used over and over again.
Yep.
Especially in music, they like to use certain phrases and stuff over and over again. So that's fun.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You want to talk about what you brought here today?
Yeah, let's talk about
looking amazing.
The robots in the room.
The robots in the room.
So like I just mentioned, I'm a big fan of Japanese culture and anime and whatnot. And here we have a little bit of that. So these are all different models from the Gundam series. And one of the reasons I kind of fell off of fingerboarding was because of models. I started making models in 2011. And I just got really obsessed with it. One, it was really, really calming. I could just sit there and focus for hours and not realize that hours had passed.
Yeah.
And just work on something. And that was great. And then because I did a lot of drawing and painting as a kid and quite a bit less as an adult, I needed a different creative outlet. So I started building models, and then that progressed from just building them to painting them, and then from there doing other stuff, adding different details. You can scribe lines and scratch build things out of plastic board and whatnot. But some of these here are things I've completed in the past, and with these two you get a little bit of a before and after. And then the other three are just ones that I've painted up. Not really anything special in the way of construction. It's all just out of the box, and you know, you clean up the parts and put them together and then paint them. If anyone watching has never seen a model kit before, I brought one here that's never been worked on.
Sweet.
And this is an old,
let's see it.
Old model kit from the 80s. I don't know if this one's actually from when it wasn't printed in the 80s, but
oh, so they still make it?
They still make it, yeah. But it's the exact same kit as when it originally released. But you get parts, they're all on these things called runners or trees, and you cut them all out with some nippers here.
Nice.
And then when you cut out the pieces, it's going to leave a little mark from where you cut it out. So you'll sand all that off until it's nice and smooth. Some models you can just snap together. Others like this require glue and a lot more work. So this is going to get a little nerdy with model talk.
That's good. Bring it on.
So if you build a modern kit like this, you typically don't have to glue anything together, but with old kits, you do. So if you take the two head pieces here, cut them out, you sandwich them together. When you do that, there's going to be a giant line down the middle of them. So you have to glue that together so that the glue comes out of that line and kind of seals everything, and then you're going to sand all of that away. And you're going to do that for every single piece. So it can get a little bit tedious, the gluing and the sanding, and if you spray it with primer or whatever and you see, there's still a little bit of separation, you have to go back in and fix that before you paint anything. So it's a lot of work, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's pretty rewarding.
I gotta check this thing out.
And then some of the newer kits, like that particular kit was printed in 2020, so it's pretty new. It's fun to see how the technology changes from year to year. So that when you're done with it, you kind of just have an action figure. You can move it and pose it and do different things, and they all have different little gimmicks. So there's a lot that goes into it. You can be as creative as you want to be with it.
Dude, the level of detail is insane. How do you get? Are these stickers with the words? No, not quite.
They're water slide decals. So depending on the kit, you might get them with the kit. You might have to buy them third party, but you can put different little markings and stuff on it.
Crazy.
One of my big focuses with building models is the painting part.
Yeah. I mean, you know all about paint and you do crazy paint stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely talk about that. I mean, I remember the other day, or probably a couple of weeks ago, we were talking
like
about...
a month ago.
Yeah, we were talking about paint in the other room while we were fingerboarding, and like, you know way more about paint than I knew existed.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
There's a lot of different kinds of paint out there. And then, so you have to learn like, what paints you can layer on top of each other if you want to get really into it. So there's all kinds of different chemistries. And then knowing what colors you can layer on top of each other for different effects. There's just a lot out there. So some of the stuff I try to do is give the kid a feeling like it was like a painting on the box art, or if you pulled it out of your TV set from watching the anime.
Cool.
So a lot of the colors I use are very well thought out in terms of what tones they're going to be, and then how I layer those on top of each other. I put a lot of thought into. So like, these 3 kits here all have different shading techniques, and it might be kind of hard to pick it up on camera.
This one looks insane. I don't know if they can tell, but that color, we need that on a fingerboard truck. That like, it's like a different gray than these grays.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
The purple one, purplish gray.
Is it purplish? I don't know. My eyes are not super in tune. I would say it's like almost a yellowish gray, but I could be wrong. You know more than I do. But I'm talking about just like this leg coloring.
Oh, the white. Yeah.
But it's not white. White is like white.
So it's that's the thing with paint. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. But
yeah, it looks so good.
It's white. But underneath that is kind of a purple gray color.
Okay.
And then the white paint itself is kind of special. It's more like a white green paint. So I layered the white green paint on top of the purple gray paint to give it that effect specifically.
That's crazy.
Because if you look at this kit, I've actually used that same white on parts of this kit, but it's a completely different outcome.
Yeah.
And what's under here is like pink and purple. And that gives it kind of, if you look more toward the tips of things, it's more like this color.
Super
and that's
cool.
more how the box art looked. So this one was definitely more of a box art mimic style, or this one was more of my own kind of, this is what I want to do with the kit. And same with this one. The colors I painted this in aren't even the colors that is supposed to be. But I took this, there's 3 different variations of this particular model. And I took one of those color variations and just applied it to this one and did different shading and whatnot. This one's just kind of plain metallic colors. Nothing too fancy, but I try to go in and paint all the little detail parts too. And it's more apparent on this one because you can see there's little black and red specks there. And I masked all that off and airbrushed it, and it was kind of tedious, but it came out really nice. And that's what makes it worth it, because in the end you have like this cool figure, but also a piece of art that you've put a lot of time and effort into.
Yeah, definitely. I can see how it would be super therapeutic and immersive to just do all this. And I think people who fingerboard, like at least some people are like, you know, into making things in general, sanding boards and making obstacles and stuff. So I think this will appeal to certain people, and they'll be like, you know, I think once you start it, it's like, it's just so fun to build anything. You know?
It's super fun. And there's all kinds of stuff out there. There's model kits for everything. If you're into cars, there's all kinds of cars, military stuff, cool characters, sculpture. And making models has kind of led me into different avenues of art that I wasn't necessarily interested in the past. If you talked to me in high school, there was no way you could get me to try to sculpt anything out of clay or other materials. But since I picked up model making, I've gotten more into sculpture and tried to figure things out. And I've gotten more into just kind of scratch building things. I didn't really bring any examples here, but with other models, I'll scratch build different pieces out of plastic board and modify them in different ways. And that's a lot of work too, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. I like that gold too. It's like, when you're mindful of like the colors and stuff, totally different than like at first glance you're just like, yeah, a bunch of figures.
Yeah.
And then once you start getting into it and you hear about how it's made and you like really look at them for a while, it's like, it's amazing detail and everything. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So hopefully the camera picks that up in a way that people can see it too.
Hopefully. Yeah, see, I don't really post my work anywhere anymore. I ran a Twitter for a while and I would just post models on there, but I got tired of that. So it's just for me now.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's really awesome. I think there's something extra special about doing what you love and doing it just for you and not doing it for social media, because that's like the new thing these days is like people are like, oh, what will make me look good on social media?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what's going to make you happy or successful or popular in the end. It's like what you really want is to do what you enjoy doing. And if it's just you and nobody else, like if you never showed anyone these, you'd probably be just as happy because you're like, I did it, you know, like it's the process of making it, and it's like the focus. You can't be that focused when you're like doing it for someone else, because you're like, oh, is this going to look like how other people want it to look? Not like how I want it to look. And you can apply this to anything.
Yeah. And I've definitely thought about making videos on doing this, and that when I just think about how much work I would have to put into it and maintain it, it just becomes not fun. The whole process doesn't seem fun anymore. So I just let it be what it is and have my own fun with it.
Yeah, that's the best. I think you should do a little stop motion like kickflip or something on one of them, like in your next part. It would be pretty sick.
I could try. I've never done stop motion before.
I'll help you. I've done it a long time ago. We could try one together.
Let's do it.
That would be so funny. Well, before we go away from this topic, I'm also curious, how the heck did you find this? And how did you learn how to do all the painting techniques and the craftsmanship in general, like all of that?
Yeah, so I think sometime in the early 2000s, Cartoon Network started to show Gundam Wing, which is what these two are from. And at the time, they started to sell action figures and model kits in different department stores. So you could go to Toys R Us, Target, or Walmart, and they would have these things. And they would advertise them on TV. And the advertisements were pretty funny. If you look for them on YouTube, you can find them. But it would say like, whatever kit, skill level 5, 300 hours of work. And as a kid, I would sit there and think, well, it wouldn't take me that long to build it. Not knowing what other work they put into it. But from the show, I liked the show, so I went out and bought one of the kits. And they come in different scales. So all of the ones here are 1 to 100 scale. And then they also come in stuff like 1 to 144 scale. So those kits are actually smaller. Whoa. But not knowing how scaling worked as a child, I thought the bigger the number, the bigger the toy. So I bought one of the smaller ones, put it together, and I remember being so disappointed that it didn't look like the box, because the ones that come in the manual are all painted up and they look awesome, but the manuals don't tell you any of that stuff. It's just, you know, here's runner A, cut out piece 25 and stick it to piece 26. So I got done with it. It's like, well, this is okay, I guess. And then didn't think about it for a while. And then Christmas time rolled around and I ended up getting one of the larger scale ones for Christmas. And I put that together and I was just like, wow, this is way cooler than that other one. I like this a lot. And it just sat on my shelf for a long time. When I was around 18, 19, that kind of stuff was kind of going out of the department stores. And so they would clearance a lot of that stuff out. And I would just go to Walmart and pick out random ones and build them at home. And I was just snapping them together. I didn't even know that you needed tools to cut them off of the runners. I would twist the pieces off, and that leaves horrible marks on the plastic. So yeah, I would just put them together and be at peace for a couple hours, and then you know, onto the shelf they go and on with life. And then I didn't, after that, I'd say around 2004, I didn't build them anymore. You couldn't really find them. And I just kind of forgot about it. Around 2011, actually no, before that, 2009, my wife and I were in Boston, and there used to be a store there called Tokyo Kid, and they sold a bunch of different anime stuff and figures. And they had a model of this one here. This is the Wing Zero, and that happens to be my favorite one. And I saw it, and you could build the inner frame of it, and I thought that was super cool. So not only do you get this cool exterior, but you can build something with a cool interior and then put all that stuff on it. So if we take these apart, take off all the armor, there's like a skeleton under there. And I just remember thinking that was super cool. That's my favorite suit. So I picked up a model, and then it sat in my closet for about a year until my wife and I moved into our own place. And then I was like, oh yeah, I have this model. I'm going to build it, and then I can put it somewhere. And at the time that I bought it, I remember the store clerk telling me that there was going to be a contest, a model making contest. And that was just wild to me, because I just thought of them as toys. And so that got me thinking when I was building it, like, okay, well, what can I do to make this better? And from there, I started to kind of look on YouTube and see what other people were doing. And then I found out that you use side cutters to cut the pieces out, and that'll get rid of the horrible marks. And then all of the, you might notice like there's a bunch of little lines and stuff all over the kit. Those are panel lines, kind of like an airplane or a car would have. But you can fill those in with paint or marker or whatever, and that'll kind of add a lot more detail to the kit. And so, of course, not knowing anything, you think that any idea you have is the greatest idea. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to fill in these lines and do this, all this stuff, and then maybe I can win this contest. I never entered the contest. I never, like, by the time I got around to building the kit, a year had passed. So, but I still wanted to try to do a good job on it. So I built up the kit and then put it on my shelf and forgot about it. 2011 rolls around. I was walking in the mall, and I walked by a comic book store, and they had some boxes on display in their window. And I went in, and I was looking at them, and they had a different kit from this series, and it was a slightly different design. And I said, I've never seen this design before. This looks really cool. I'm going to buy it. And that model was $100, which was probably 3 times the price it should have been. Like the model itself should have only been around $40, but I had to have it. I got it, and I put it together, and then I started looking at the box, and I noticed that this kit had a different design. I said, oh, I've never seen that before. And I just started looking for these different things, and finding all of these different designs and different kits, and suddenly, like, I have to have these. I have to build them and get this collection going. And then from there, like I said, I was looking on YouTube. It's like, okay, well, how good can people get at this? And that was kind of how I got into fingerboarding too.
I was going to say, people say that about fingerboarding all the time.
Just like, how good can someone be at this?
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. A lot of people will see something like fingerboarding or model kits. It's like, don't you have anything better to do with your time? Well, yeah, I did it. Like, don't you have anything better to do? It's like, it's my time. I can do whatever I want.
It's a good attitude to have.
Yeah. And then I stumbled upon this this Japanese TV show that someone had uploaded to YouTube, where they had pro model makers building models. And they did one episode on a Gundam, and it showed how the guy applied actual paint to the panel lines, and it uses capillary action and pulls the paint through the line.
Whoa.
Which I thought was super cool. And then he just cleaned up the excess with like a Q-tip. Like, oh, I have to try that. And then I just started watching all of the different Gundam shows in that series, saw what other pro modelers could do. I'm like, you can do all of this stuff with a plastic model. and it just spiraled from there. I started to teach myself how to paint, first with spray paint, and then eventually I got an airbrush. And with airbrushing, you can have a bit more freedom with colors and whatnot. So a lot of the colors I use, I'll mix myself. Like all the blues and stuff on that kit are all mixed myself. And that was, at first, all I wanted to do was just paint them and do different shading and stuff. Because I think when a lot of people start building models, at least at the time that I started, there's a technique called pre-shading, where you put a darker color on first, and then you put your lighter color on top. But you don't go all the way to the edges with it, and it gives it kind of a shadowy effect.
Cool.
Which is what these have, but I've done it in a more subtle manner. Because it's really, that's a technique that's easy to start doing, but it's really hard to make it look as good as it can look. A lot of pro modelers will just do solid colors more like this. But it just depends on the kit and what you want to do with it. But at first, that's the ultimate thing right there. I can pre-shade all of these and have all these cool looking things. And then over time, your tastes change, and you kind of develop into your own artist. And here I am now. I'll just, I'll take a look at the kit, and if I have an idea for it right away, I'll do that idea. If not, maybe it'll sit on my shelf for years. Or I'll try a thing and it'll turn out terribly, and I will just buy another one of the kit and try it again. I've ruined probably as many model kits as I've actually finished. And that just, if that happens, they go in, to the junk parts box, and you can use that stuff for other things. It's not, it's not the end of the world. Or you can take the paint off and start over. In certain cases, it's a little bit harder to start over if you're adding different details, like scribing stuff in there or changing the proportions of things to where you actually have to cut pieces. If you mess up, it's a little bit harder to recover from that, and then sometimes things turn into spare parts and you just start over. But that's life.
Yeah, that's awesome too. Like, I think for anybody listening who's gonna get into it, like, if they mess up, they know they're not the only one who messes up. Like, keep trying.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that you can apply to anything
it's just like
in life.
Learning a trick.
Yeah.
You try.
You're gonna fail sometimes.
Try kickflip 300 times, you might make it 2 times, but you've also learned how to not do a kickflip those 298 times, and you might not realize it at the time, but you are learning something, and then you'll take that knowledge and apply it to whatever you're doing the next time, and then it's not so hard.
Exactly. So. Yeah. And I noticed you told me you painted your fingerboard before you got here, and I looked at it and I was like, all right, that's like more than the average paint. That's like a really nice looking gradient.
I haven't had this board very long. I got it on Monday, and I can't leave anything alone. So I ordered a December board from Joaquim, and he sent me this really cool looking board. It was all purple to start out with. And then me being me, I said, well, purple's cool, but I have all these colors at my disposal, and I sprayed some transparent colors on there.
Doesn't even look like you sprayed it. We got to do a collab with like some boards. This is insane. You can still see the wood grain.
Yeah.
You can still see the engraving and the color of the engraving, and then it looks like a faded bottom ply. Like,
yeah, I did that on purpose. So
that's incredible.
I took some fluorescent pink, and again, they're all transparent paints, so it's easier to pick up the detail that's already on the board in terms of wood grain and the laser engraving on there. So I sprayed it with the pink first, and then I took some transparent blue, and with transparent colors, depending on how heavy you spray them, you can layer them up to have different gradients. So I went kind of light in the middle, and then a little darker, and then where it touches the pink, it fades into purple. And I kind of sprayed it down around the tail. And then for the nose, I just took a darker purple, because I really liked the color of the bottom ply that it was to start, and I didn't want to lose all of that. And when you sand things, when you sand the lacquer off stuff, it loses some of that vibrancy. So just in order to bring that back, I sprayed it with some transparent purple, and then I put a couple layers of lacquer on it. But I also, the reason why I painted the board wasn't just because wanted to change it. I ordered a 33.5 millimeter board, and I typically don't ride boards that are that big. And after playing with it for a couple of days, I decided, yeah, this is a little too big. So I sanded it down. Sorry, Joaquin.
Came out really nice.
To like 32 or 32.5 millimeters. And seeing that I had to re-lacquer it anyway, I decided to do something fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's super awesome. Like, it looks insane. So good. We'll put a close-up of that too, for sure.
So, I guess that can lead into the next question.
The next question
what
is,
kind of board am I riding?
No, what's in your beverage?
Definitely not pee.
No.
It's just green tea. Good old Japanese green tea. Go buy some. Your local supermarket. Good stuff.
All right, now what's your setup?
So right now I have a December deck, Dynamic Trucks, 32 millimeters, and Flatface wheels because I ride for Flatface. These are Ill Pills wheels. I'd never used urethane wheels, and I just wanted to try something different. Typically I'll ride the white G8 wheels or whatever color I'm feeling like at the time, but most of the time it's white. But this is the first board I've used that is not a Berlin wood since I've started fingerboarding, basically. I could probably count on one hand how many different companies of boards I've had that aren't Berlin woods. But yeah, since I'd stepped away for so long, I just wanted to try something different, and what Joaquin was doing seemed really interesting. He seems like someone who put a lot of thought into making the shape of the board and whatnot. And since I got to meet him briefly at Rendezvous, and he let me try his board, I was convinced that I wanted one, and so I took the plunge and purchased one. So.
Yeah, definitely. I have one too, as you know, and it's a really nice board. It's like somewhat mellow with like pretty deep concave, and it performs really good. Yeah. Like, I set it up and I was like, the kicks look long, I don't know about this, and then I tried it and I was like, wow, it works really well. You know, he knows what he's doing. So yeah, they're cool boards. Check those out for sure.
So with my experience with it so far, just the shape, like I noticed he kind of tapered the nose and tail so they're slightly pointy, which makes 360 flips a little easier to scoop them. Not that they're particularly hard with any board, but they just have a slightly nicer feeling with that tapered nose and tail. And then otherwise, I'd say they're very similar to a regular Berlin wood shape, just a little bit different, equally as good. Yeah, try one out. They're great.
Yeah. What do you think about how square all the boards are getting these days?
It's weird. I mean, it's cool, I guess. I don't like to get too far outside of the box in terms of board shapes. Yeah. I like your classic popsicle board, or maybe a normal old school style board if you want to goof around with those. But I don't really see the point performance-wise for things like egg-shaped boards and boxy boards, but it's cool. And of course, this is just my opinion. I'm probably wrong.
Well, there's no right or wrong. It's like whatever works for you.
Whatever you want to use. Some of the boards I've seen, I really don't understand. They just seem like it would hurt if you messed up on something. Not really to call out any brands, but like the goo boards that you just showed off in a previous video, they have the jagged sides.
Oh, I love that. It feels so good. You can like rub your finger on it. It's just like a cool thing to hold.
I just imagine trying to do a nollie heel flip or something on that and primoing it.
Well, how much pressure do you use when fingerboarding?
I'm pretty heavy-handed.
Okay. Yeah. Some people do.
Yeah. Some people are really, really light-fingered, and I'm envious of those people because that's not my style. I don't know why I'm so heavy-handed, but it just is what it is. And I remember when I was first learning nollie heels, I would press down so hard on the board Like, I have no idea how I was doing it. I've gotten a lot better at it since, but just I would just try to press it into the ground. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of rough on equipment.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, sometimes I hurt my finger, like if I land on the kingpin like this way,
Yeah.
I land pretty hard. So I guess I like sometimes fingerboard hard, but I feel like it depends on the trick and what I'm trying and stuff. It's not like all the time.
For sure.
But
yeah.
haven't snapped one yet, so.
I've never snapped one from use.
Yeah.
Maybe just throwing a tantrum here and there. But that's why I don't have any boards from the past. That's not entirely true. I gave away or sold most of the old stuff I have, so I don't even have anything that I started with, which is kind of sad.
Is that your biggest regret in life?
No, not really. You can't live life with regrets like that. It's just stuff. But some of the boards I had were really good, and I kind of wish I had them because for me it's very hit or miss whether I will like a board.
Me too.
So holding on to some stuff that's good would probably have benefited me, and I wouldn't have to rack my brain trying to figure out what's good out of all these new brands. Maybe not necessarily what's good, but what I would like to use myself.
Yeah. What's good for you?
I mean, it's always been Berlin wood boards. I was on the team for a while, and then having stepped away, everything's changed so much. I just kind of assumed that that's no longer a thing. But coming back into it, that was the first board I went for, Berlin wood board, and yeah, it's great. Old, reliable Berlin wood most of the time. Sometimes their boards can be hit or miss, but that's with any company. Like you can't get a perfect thing every time. But
yeah, I mean if you're really like, I don't know, like we're very picky.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have 5 of the same board, it's like no, only 3 of those are the same. Like to somebody else they're all the same.
Yeah.
But to us it's like no, this one's a tiny bit lighter, a tiny bit thicker, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those things make it or break it depending like on your preferences. So.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like a heavier board. I think it feels better when you're doing kickflips. It kind of just goes up to your fingers and it's easier to catch.
Yeah.
With a lighter board, I feel like it's a little bit all over the place. And then when I left fingerboarding, there were really only like 2.5 truck brands. You had Black River trucks and then Y trucks and Tech Deck trucks.
Half?
Tech Deck trucks are the half.
Oh, okay.
And now coming back into it, there's a bunch of different stuff. And it's like, all right, well, what do I choose? And before I'd never thought about how the different trucks would alter your board. But now, like going from Black River trucks to dynamic trucks, it's a really big difference.
Yeah.
Dynamic trucks make your wheelbase a bit longer, and that's great for some boards, but bad for others. If you have a board that's really long already and you put dynamic trucks on it, then it's going to feel even longer, and that's going to change your tricks.
Yep.
But that makes it interesting because now you can do all kinds of different combinations with things.
Yeah, I've been switching up a lot of setups, like, you know, which trucks, which wheels are better on each one. The wheels, too, just the size of the wheel itself will have a similar kind of effect on changing the way it performs. So then it's like, do I want dynamics with small wheels or with big wheels, or do I want Black River and then small or big or medium, or like, there's just... And then once you get it perfect, it's like, I don't want to change. Like, this setup, it's so good how it is.
Yeah.
I don't even want to experiment with it anymore because it's just dialed in.
And that's great. And then sometimes you get tired of it and you want to change to something else and you have to go through the madness all over again. I remember, like, with wheels, before I left, they're really just Flatface wheels or Black River wheels on the market. And I'm sure there were other things, but I didn't pay that much attention to them. And those two... Your wheels and Black River wheels were very similar to each other for a while, and then toward 2013, Black River started going with kind of a more realistic shape. I guess Substance wheels were around too, weren't they? I never really used those. But the shape of the wheel was always a thing that I obsessed over for no reason because it didn't matter. I just wanted it to look like a skateboard wheel and not like this blocky thing.
Yeah.
Which at the time, a lot of wheels were like that. And I see kind of an in-between now. Like with the wheels I have on my board now, they're kind of blocky. they're okay, I guess. They still have some of the rounded edges, but then I don't know at what point you changed the shape of your wheels to be more like skateboard wheels, but like,
yeah, I mean, now I got the street shape, the old regular shape, the G4, the G8, and it's like you can choose tapered or like regular rounded.
I love the shape of the G8 wheel because it's just like a real skateboard wheel. And I know I hounded you forever to make a more realistic wheel, and eventually you did it. So
oh yeah,
thanks.
You're welcome.
And then there's like other cool stuff out there too. Like you did the dual duramer wheels, but you did that a long time ago, and not necessarily. They were just like cord wheels with the different colors, which I thought was a cool idea. And then, oh, what else? I don't even know. There's just so much new stuff out there.
It must be crazy, like having stepped away, like at that time when things were like kind of going but not really, and then coming back to now. Like the fingerboard scene right now is crazier than it's ever been in terms of like how many options are out there, and I can't even keep up with all of them. It's insane. And every single rendezvous I'm seeing like new setups from people that I've never seen half the parts. I'm like, what trucks are those? What wheels are those? What?
It's like, so crazy.
It's just never ending, and it's really cool.
It's a little overwhelming too, especially I can see how if you're new to it, a lot of this stuff costs a lot of money. And I've been fortunate enough to be in a position to be sponsored by people, so I haven't really had to pay for a lot of this stuff. But now, since I am using my own money, I'm a little bit more conscious of what I'm buying. So yeah, there are a lot of options out there, and you know, in the end, it's really just a personal preference thing.
Right.
You know, yeah, some boards can be made a little bit better than others, but in the end, it's just whatever shape you prefer. So I know, like Tim Hurley kind of touched on that a little bit. Just, you know, use tech decks if that's what makes you happy, you know, and yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think find what works for you, and if you don't know where to start, like see what people are using that you like their fingerboarding. Yeah. Like you like their tricks and their style and everything, and then see what they're using and use that as a starting point. Yeah. Like if you notice that, you know, everybody good uses, you know, either let's say Black River trucks or dynamic trucks, it's like, what trucks do I get? Oh, probably one of those two. You know, you don't need to think that far out of the box right away. You can if you want, but it's like, if you want to guarantee that you have something good, start with like the best of the best, the most popular, the ones you see everyone shredding, and you at least have something good there for sure. Yeah, and that was a little easier back in the day, because for a lot of us, we all looked up to the German writers. Yep. Like, what are they writing? Oh, Berlin wood boards, you know. There was Tech Deck trucks at the time because that was all that was out until '09 when Black River trucks came out. But yeah, like that's we want to be like them and fingerboard like they do, and that's what we rode. Yep, we try to set up like, oh, they got a yellow Berlin wood, so do I. Like try to get the same setup from a video we liked. Nick Herzog. Yeah, exactly. The only reason I've had as many yellow boards as I had. That's not true. My favorite board color on real skateboards is actually like yellow plies too. Cool. And that's because of Jamie Thomas in the Welcome to Hell Toy Machine video. He had like some stars on his board, and I'm pretty sure it was a yellow top ply board, and that just kind of stuck with me. I was like, oh, that looks. He's doing this 360 flip. Oh, that looks really cool. I want to be like Jamie Thomas and do cool 360 flips with a yellow board. So I think the first zero board I bought had a yellow ply too, and maybe it just stuck with me because of that. But yeah, still, I think that Nick Herzog Rail Jam video influenced a lot of people. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, I bet a lot of new kids haven't even seen it, so you should. Yeah, check it out. Go look it up. We'll put a link to it for sure. That's an important one. Live a life of misery trying to do nollie heels as good as his. Dude, kids are so good at nollie heels now. It's like they pick it up before the kickflip and then just like master it. It's insane. The level at which people are doing stuff now is crazy to me. As I mentioned it earlier, but some video I watched the other day, some guys doing like big flip hurricane and like cab flip hurricane or something. Just
some crazy trick that I can't even wrap my head around. And he probably did it in like 3 or 4 tries, where a trick like that would take me all day.
You never know. That's the one thing I wonder. It's like there's all these people posting crazy clips, but you never really know how long it takes them to get it. But yeah, a lot of it seems like they got it really fast.
Do you ever just mess around with the trick and you happen to do it in like 1 or 2 tries and it's really good, and you just kind of have to take a minute and put the fingerboard down and like, wow, I did that.
Yeah, and then you go to film it and it's not happening for an hour.
Yeah, but, you know, that's the bail gun. You know, get that camera out and you're not pro fingerboarder anymore. Just starting out. You gotta get your stats up.
Yeah. It's funny, I've been trying to figure out what exactly is going on there, because it's like, it can't be just nerves of the camera. Like, there's something else. And I was thinking, like, when you're fingerboarding, you try different tricks, like, you know, a few tries of this, a few tries of that. You're not sitting there trying one trick. So then it's like the probability that you land something at some point is like eventually you're going to land something. And then it's like, that's different than like sitting down and trying the same trick only over and over again, where it's like when you land that crazy trick that you thought of and did second try or first try on a whim, it's like you weren't thinking about it, you didn't know what to do and what not to do, you just kind of went for it and it worked, but you don't really know what you just did in terms of how did you make that trick work first try. And that's why you can't get it again, because it's like it was a little bit of luck in a way. And it's like, you know, tricks that you can do are not like that, but when you do a trick that you can't do and then you take the camera out to film it, I think that's part of why it never works again, or like it's a lot harder to get it the second time. Yeah,
for sure. I experienced that very early on when I started skateboarding. I was a really big Rodney Mullen fan, and I wanted to learn Casper slides. And so my friends and I would all skate in this church parking lot, and someone had a really small kind of manual pad box, and we stuck it down the curb. And I did a Casper slide down it.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't believe I just did that. Let's go get the camera. I bet I can do it again. And then 3 hours later, you're out of tape, and you're just like, no, there's no Casper slide on that tape.
Wow.
You know, I've never tried that trick again.
Crazy. Yeah, I've had a few moments like that on my skateboard too. One time I was like probably 13. I just got on my board. I was like, I'm gonna half cab heel. I just did the best half cab heel. Caught it like this high. Like, it was like I jumped so high and it worked perfect. And then I just like probably didn't land another one for like a few years, dude. Like,
once you start thinking about what you're doing, I think that makes it harder in a way too. If you can just kind of clear your mind and you don't get frustrated with things.
Yeah.
Just try something. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Don't worry about it. Move on. But once you start putting some real conscious effort into certain things, it just makes it harder. And I think that's what the real issue with the camera is. It's not the camera itself. It's just now you're more hyper aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like you're overthinking everything instead of just doing it.
And then if you're filming it, of course you want it to look good. So I think the fear is you're going to get it, it's going to look bad, and then you're going to spend hours trying to get this trick again to make it look good, and that might not happen.
Yeah, and I notice when I'm fingerboarding that if I try to do a trick and I'm thinking in my head, like, you know, I want to make it look a certain way, I want to make it look good, I'll be like not even landing the trick. And then if I think like, all right, why don't I just land it, and if it doesn't look good, I'll do it again, and if it doesn't look good, I'll do it again and again and again. And then you start landing it like every try, and you're like, okay, now it's so easy to tweak the style how I want to.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to kind of slow down and be like, all right, before you do the backside flip and catch it like that, just do a backside flip. And then see if you catch it like that. You know, it's like
just kind of have to build up on it.
Too much thinking sometimes.
Yeah. It's like I get stuck in that when trying certain tricks. It's like, all right, well, I can do both of these tricks separately, so why can't I do them together? And I remember I was watching some video on YouTube where a guy was talking about how he was trying to learn kickflip crooked grinds. And he's like, I can kickflip, I can crooked grind. Why am I having such a difficult time putting the two together? And I think a lot of that is you think about that trick, kickflip crooked grind, as one trick instead of two separate tricks. And then if you think about it as two different tricks, it's easier to break down. And this guy, PJ Ladd, happened to be at the park when this guy was trying it, and he's like, just do a kickflip. Like, don't even think about the crooked grind. Just do the kickflip. And I try to apply that towards some of the stuff I'm doing. It doesn't always work, you know, but I think it helps you to learn stuff that way. If you just break it down into smaller parts. If you're having trouble with the first part, just focus on the first part. If you're having trouble with the second part, just focus on the second part. And then eventually you'll be able to stack those things together and you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, that's cool. I have almost the opposite approach. If I'm trying a combo, like let's say kickflip nose grind, like nollie varial flip out or whatever, and then eventually I stop even getting into the kickflip nose grind, the first part, until I start thinking about the second part.
Yeah.
And then I like get in the first time every try, and I don't even notice I just did like 30 in a row that I got into.
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know why that is, but it's like if a combo's not working, I'm like, I just have to think of the last part.
Yeah.
The whole time for some reason.
I think that that method of thinking applies to a lot of people who are actually skateboarding too. Like you'll see people do a really crazy trick down a big stair set or something, but they'll do a line up to it. And I think it's just if you can land those first two tricks, you're way more motivated to get that last trick. I think that's kind of what you're experiencing a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes the pressure too in skateboarding, if you're like getting kicked out of a spot, it like forces you to land the trick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work, but it works a lot of the time because you're just like, this is my last try.
Yeah. Doesn't really happen with fingerboarding.
No, because
I've never been kicked out anywhere for fingerboarding.
I've been kicked out.
Yeah.
I was fingerboarding at the mall at like an empty like kiosk in the middle, those things where they sell random items and stuff. And it was an empty one. There was no products or people there. And like the security came and was just like, you can't be doing that here. It was so bizarre.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good morning. Today's episode is brought to you by Dynamic Fingerboards and Rhombus. Yep. So Scott B from Dynamic was generous enough to send me a box, and let's see what's inside. You guys probably heard of Dynamic trucks. There's some of the best fingerboard trucks out there. And he's also got some other cool stuff. So here we go. Awesome. Whoa. All right, this is a Dynamic Complete 5-ply wooden fingerboard. And then it's got Dynamic trucks and wheels on it. Awesome. I think Jesse Braun did this graphic. Super sick. Got some, oh yeah, the brand new trucks with the engraving. Sick. 2 sets of them, 32 and 32 special edition. So they got the kingpins with the screw-in kingpins, and then they got your like standard kingpins that you put the nut on. So yeah, super sick, and they have cool colors. I got 32 because that's my favorite size trucks to use, even with wider boards like 33. And then let's see, this should be the rail. Yeah. What do you think, Rhombus? Check out this rail. These rails are crazy. It's like one solid piece of metal, super chrome from the future. Rhombus approved. Super solid. And then, yeah, that's everything. So let's take a closer look at this fingerboard. So it's got pretty low, medium concave, and medium kicks. Like that. Yeah, wow. The graphic has like a matte feeling finish to it. It's super nice. It's different than most. It's also shiny, but yeah, it has a really cool feel to it. And yeah, I gotta put some non-sliders on this rail, but the rail is so smooth, it's like butter. Feels like you're not even grinding. Amazing. So yeah, and then Dynamic trucks, you guys already know. I have them on some of my setups, and they're super sick. So you can get dynamic stuff on their website and on my website too. So dynamicfb.com and dynamicfb, you can see there their Instagram, their website. And then, yeah, occasionally on Flatface, we'll do special colorways that are available only on my site. Flatface colorway with the blue base plate and stuff. So, yeah, check them out. They got completes. They got everything that goes into a complete. I was going to say they got wheels, they got trucks, decks, tape, and more. So, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Dynamic. Thank you, Rhombus. Go check them out. We're diving in deep to the middle, the deep end of the podcast, I guess you could say. Let's see. As a person, what do you think is your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness as a person?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't typically think about what I'm bad at enough. I always had a really hard time talking to people when I was younger. And a little bit still as an adult.
I don't see it in you anymore. I think you were shyer when I first knew you.
Maybe. But if there's a complete stranger, I have a really hard time making small talk with people. It's just, in my head, I think about, why would this person care about what I have to say? And is anything I have to say remotely interesting? And to me, it's not. Like, I don't want to hear you talk about whatever it is that you're going to talk about. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to hear me talk about model kits or skateboarding or whatever it is that I want to talk about. And sometimes that's not the case. It's just sometimes you need that icebreaker of sorts to open people up. And I've gotten a lot better over the years. Just kind of from working different retail jobs and other things where you have to talk to people, because it's easy to talk to your friends. It's easy to find common ground. We can talk about fingerboarding, skateboarding, music, whatever. It's a little different when you're just talking to a stranger in a store. But I think over the years, I've gotten a lot better at it. So still something I'm working on. And then too, I'm pretty hard on myself sometimes, just in terms of where I think I'm supposed to be at in life. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to get up and go to work every day. This feels terrible, just dealing with a bit of depression now and again. And, most people go through that. But you could be perfectly happy one moment, and the next moment you're just like, I don't want to go through this every day. What's the point, kind of thing. So just kind of recognizing when you start to spiral out of control mentally. I'm trying to work on that a lot too.
Yeah.
It's like I just started a new job not that long ago. And it's not a very exciting job. It's pretty boring. But some days I'm just like, I don't want to be doing this in a year, 2 years. But then on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. Like it pays your bills. You have good benefits and all this stuff. It's just not stimulating. So
yeah,
keeping myself from getting bored is something I'm trying to work on.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could have. There's a couple approaches. You could probably almost mix them. It's like in one regard, it's like try to be just like present in the moment and mindful with, looking at kind of what's going on right now and like what are the good things about it. Like, yeah, it's boring as hell, but it also provides you with a really good security and lifestyle where you can build models and fingerboard and hang out. And
I can fingerboard while I'm working. If there's
awesome.
Downtime, I'm just sitting at a desk.
Yeah. So it's like there are those things, but then also it's like, well, why is my body sending me this signal that something's wrong? Like, what do I really want to do? And maybe you'll find a job that doesn't come with that existential dread with it, like those, when you have those messages and they keep coming back over and over again, it's like, it's because somebody's trying to tell you something, somebody meaning your body's trying to tell you, like, maybe there's a different version of this job that would suit you better, and you just have to find it.
Yeah, that's true. And I think from my point, a lot of the time, My unhappiness with something kind of stems from my communication skills. I don't really vocalize what I'm thinking a lot of the time, just because I don't want to upset anyone, or I think to myself, like, have I really done a good enough job to deserve the thing that I want? And a lot of the time, yes, I have done a good enough job, but if I'm not telling anyone that, they can't read my mind.
Yeah.
And then that just, you know, you can spiral from there. It's like, why don't they see it? Well, people are busy too.
Yep.
So sometimes you just have to bring it up. And
totally.
you know.
Yeah, I've seen that in my own life in different ways too. And an interesting thing I heard recently is that people who went to, I think it was like some kind of therapy or whatever clinician, and they had problems, they were like, you know, depressed or anxious, and they had really like heavy problems in their life, like a huge percentage of them, it was like 70% or something, they felt better after just telling the therapist, not getting treated, not getting a solution, just telling their thing. So that reminded me of how you said, like, you don't always speak what's on your mind or what you, sometimes you just got to get it out, you know. It's like it's more important to voice your concerns or whatever they are, talk about those things, and, you know, feel that, like, you know, you're worth it to say those things. And then you might even get some good advice or something, or sometimes you just want somebody to listen. But like, if it helped that many people, they didn't even do anything about it, they just said it out loud. So yeah, definitely try to find the ways to do it.
Just talking with people helps. So
yeah, for sure. I find that it does a lot of times. And for me, it's like, if I have a problem, a lot of times I'll like talk about it, and then right when it comes out of my mouth, I know the solution, and I'm like, what? It was that easy? Like, I could have thought of it, but I had to get to the point where I was about to ask someone for help, and then I talked about it, and then it became obvious. There's something about vocalizing out loud to a person.
And sometimes I think people get a lot of anxiety about just talking to people.
Yeah.
But once you take that first step, it's way easier. It's like, I hate being on the phone, but I've taken hundreds of phone calls. So it's just because, you know, in my case, it's job related. Starting a new job, I don't have all of the knowledge that I would like to have to help someone. So you get a little bit hesitant of doing something, even though you've done it thousands of times before.
Yeah.
But then once you take that first step, it's not as bad as you built it up to be in your head, and you just go from there. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. I think I used to be more shy than I am now, and I think you also, from what I see.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got any tips for people how to overcome that? Because I don't know how. I feel like I just kind of grew into it over time or something.
Yeah, it's going to be different for everyone. For me, what helps is at some point when I start to get just too anxious, I'll just do the thing. I'll just turn my brain off and do the thing, and then think about it again, and you go, oh, it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be.
Yeah.
You know, that would happen all the time, especially even with skateboarding. A lot of the friends I had from skateboarding, I was so nervous to talk to them at first, because again, you just get in your own head and you're like, oh, I'm not cool enough to talk to these people because I'm not as good as they are. And a lot of people just don't care. They're going to help you.
Almost nobody cares. Skateboarders, we love teaching each other tricks. It's like so fun. But yeah, I definitely know that feeling too. It's like, you almost think like, you know, why would that pro talk to me, or why would that person who's so much better than me care about talking to me? And then they just see you as a person on a skateboard. Like, it doesn't matter the skill level and all those little things.
Like, going back to my Ben Gilly story, when he walked up to me and he was like, hey, what's going on? The words that came out of my mouth were, I suck. And he told me, he goes, that's okay. Like, all right. But I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that a pro skateboarder was talking to me, and at the time I wasn't as good at skateboarding as I would be.
Right.
But yeah, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be good at stuff to talk to other people who are good at stuff. Those are the best people to talk to if you're not good at something and you want to be better. They're definitely going to understand where you're coming from, because before you're good at something, you have to be bad at it.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I think that really brings it home for people. Like, it's just, you just realize, like, dang, okay, we all are just people. Like, maybe this person a year ago is where I am now.
Yeah.
Or 10 years ago, but they've been there.
And if the person that you look up to ends up being an asshole when you talk to them, then they're probably not worth your time.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Totally.
probably other stuff going on with them that, you know, you probably don't want to be around.
You probably don't even want to know about
Yeah.
it.
It's like they always say, don't meet your heroes. And there's, you know, it's for good reason. With,
Yeah.
I think about that a little bit with everything being so accessible now, and so many people doing stuff outside of what they would normally do. Like a lot of people are doing podcasts now, and you're doing podcasts, and that's going to give you a little bit of a look into what that person is like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, totally.
And some people, like bands, especially musicians, some of those people you probably just don't want to be around. Just separate the art from the artist and listen to the thing you like and leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like the kind of person who never knows anything about like the music that I listen to. Except recently I've been more interested, and I found out the hard way, like Crystal Castles, I love their music, and then when I found out the story behind it, it was so painful, and I was like, oh, I don't even know if I can listen to this, and like I had to take a while to process that, and then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can listen to this again and just separate it, and it's just how it is. This is a beautiful form of art. It happened when it happened, and it is forever recorded, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and it's crazy knowing the story, but it's just like you can't let that stop you from enjoying what it is. And so it's the same with, I don't know, whoever, people who do especially art, they tend to have crazy stuff going on in their lives, which a lot of times motivates the art. You can't make Crystal Castles sounding music if you're super happy, like maybe, but it's easier if you're like going through some stressful stuff to make crazy sounding music, unfortunately. But
and like, since I like a lot of 80s music and stuff, none of the people in those bands from the 80s are good people. So just,
what do you got against 80s people, man?
Nah, I love the 80s, but it's like if you're like a huge Motley Crue fan or something, and you start to dive into some of their history, they've probably done a lot of stuff that is it's not good. But if you like their music, whatever, keep liking their music.
That shouldn't stop you from liking.
You don't have to like the person to like the art. You know?
Otherwise you're left with nothing, because eventually you find some little thing about anyone if you start caring too much, and it's like that's the wrong thing to care about. Like, take what you like from each thing and move on and just enjoy it.
Don't invest too much of yourself into other people who would never give that back to you.
Yeah, that's good. All right, we covered weaknesses. How about strengths?
Strengths.
Yeah.
That's not something I think about either. I don't do a lot of self-reflection in that way.
That's what this podcast is really for.
I see. Hard questions. I'm really good at learning things. I think that is one of my strengths. If I'm interested in something, then I will try to take it as far as I can go with it. And sometimes that's not very far, and sometimes that's really far. A really good example for me, I used to play competitive fighting games, and that was kind of another reason I stepped away from fingerboarding for so long, is just because gaming and other stuff took over. But at first I wasn't very good, and I was just having fun with it, and that's how you kind of get good at things, is just by having fun with them. But playing games taught me to be a lot more analytical about things, because if you've never played like arcade style fighting games, Street Fighter or whatever, it's kind of like playing chess at a really high level really fast, because every action you take, like there's going to be a reaction to it or a consequence. So just that whole activity taught me a lot of stuff, how to look at things differently in life. So yeah, just learning and analyzing things, I think, is a pretty big strength of mine. And then just trying to do things well. you know, I like to put a lot of effort into the things that I do. So.
Yeah, I think those two are even connected too.
Yeah.
And I think it shows too, like your attention to detail with the models and with fingerboarding. And I noticed when you got back into fingerboarding, the types of questions that you ask about boards, like nobody asks that stuff anymore. Yeah. People just buy random stuff, but you're like looking at it from like a deeper angle, I think.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to ask that stuff. And
yeah.
People, yeah. When we were coming up with fingerboards, yeah, no one really cared. You just wanted what you wanted because it was cool. And that's probably the case still with a lot of people. But when you've been doing something for so long, you start to see what works and what doesn't work for you. And that's applicable in pretty much all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a job or whatever, you know, you gotta figure out what works for you and then take that as far as you can take it.
How about anime? What's your favorite anime?
Oh man, I like a lot of anime. And I always have trouble when people ask what's your favorite, because I don't really have a favorite. But I definitely have a favorite time period of anime.
It's not the 80s,
and it's definitely the 80s. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite like genre of anime, but in terms of time period, 80s through like early 90s. And that's because a lot of the stuff was still hand drawn. And, especially if you get into mecha or robot anime or cyberpunk style anime, a lot of the detail they put into the mechanisms of like the robots or vehicles or whatever is really cool. And then when you get to see that animated, it looks even better. And there's just like no substitute for hand-drawn animation. It's just like one of the coolest things out there. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an animator.
Cool.
But that is a very, very hard job. You have to draw a lot.
Not anymore, but you used to, right? Yeah, no, that's an insane job. I have a deep appreciation for old cartoons that are just, there's nothing like them now. Like, even if you watch shows that used to be hand-drawn that are now computer animated, and it's like, yeah, the show's still good, but the art's not good anymore. It's like everything's totally different. It's simplified. It has no character anymore. And it's like, look at like Hey Arnold. Like you can see like the brush strokes and stuff, like, or the different materials that they drew with. You can like, it's awesome. It's
nice when everything is not 100% polished.
Yeah.
There's a lot more character in things that way, and you just don't get that with anime or animation in general now. Like, when was the last time you saw an actual hand-drawn animated Disney movie? I don't know.
The old ones.
Yeah, like,
that's it. I don't know.
And they put a lot of effort and love into those, and they're great. Even if you're not a fan of Disney movies, I'm not a huge Disney fan, but like, I appreciate all the art in it. And just a lot of the techniques and stuff that people were using at the time are all new. So it's a little bit more interesting because you can see mistakes here and there. And
that's cool.
And they don't use a lot of old techniques anymore. Like, I'm not sure if you know what rotoscoping is.
Oh, sounds so familiar.
It's where you take a live action thing and then you kind of draw over it.
Okay.
And animate it that way.
Yeah.
And it gives it a very interesting look. If you go back and watch like a lot of the old Lord of the Rings animated movies, you can see some of that in there. But people don't do that anymore. It's all computer stuff. And computer stuff is fine. There's a lot of really good computer stuff out there, but it's just not the same. So in a roundabout way, to answer your question, pretty much any anime from the 80s I like. But if I have to pick one, Fist of the North Star is one of my favorite ones. I have a tattoo for Fist of the North Star. It's just the Big Dipper.
Oh, I remember when you got that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But that's one of my favorite ones. It's ultra violent, but it's fun because it's so outrageous.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Who gave you? Was that Ro that did that tattoo?
Ro, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's insane.
And the cops came in while it was happening because we were making too much noise.
I gotta get Ro over here. do a podcast. Let's check out the Instagram questions. What do you eat for breakfast?
Depends on the day. Sometimes nothing, just coffee. I bought some Fruit Loops yesterday, so this morning I had Fruit Loops.
With milk?
With milk.
Whole milk or?
Whole milk.
Good, smart man. You need the fat in there.
It tastes better. Yeah. As a person who had to grow up on skim milk, the first time I got to have whole milk was very eye-opening. It just tastes way better. Like if you're not into milk, whatever, but it's good. Drink it.
Nice.
Croissants are good. I like croissants if I have those. Get a nice ham and Swiss on a croissant. It's a good time.
Now I'm hungry. That's a good one.
So I'm a very picky eater, right? And I have to work myself up into trying new things. And I was walking around Boston one day and went to this little coffee shop, and they had a bunch of really good looking stuff in the bake case. But for some reason, I kind of zeroed in on this ham and Swiss croissant. And I'm not a huge like ham person, but I'm like, all right, that looks really good. I'm going to try it. And then from then on, like, that's all I wanted for breakfast. Just ham and Swiss on a croissant. A nice coffee. But that's not always the case. Some days you just have to settle for Fruit Loops.
Oh, that's awesome. Dang, I want ham and cheese croissant now.
Yo, Cafe Nero off of in Porter Square.
Oh, we got one in Andover, I think.
They're good. Their coffee's okay, but their baked goods were delicious.
Worst fingerboard trick?
The one I'm worst at, or my least favorite one?
We're gonna have to do both because we don't know. They just said worst fingerboard trick. It could be what's the easiest, the worst trick no one cares about. No, I don't know.
I'd say the bane of my fingerboarding existence is nollie heel flips. I'm really good at them if it's not into anything, or if it's into something that's on the tail of the board. So like a back tail or
that's really hard.
Feeble. It's not hard for me. And again, trick difficulty is subjective.
Right.
Everyone's different. But if I try to do nollie heel nose grind, we're gonna be there for a while. And especially like, yeah, I might get into some, but then like the tail kind of dips down and it's like, that's not good enough. I think I just filmed one on your new park.
Yeah, that one was good.
Well, after watching the footage, it's like I kind of zero in on it. It's like, oh, the tail dipped. That I have to do it better some other day. But I would say that is like one of my favorite and least favorite tricks. But for a very long time, I used to absolutely hate it when people would do switchback Smiths, switch 360 flips out. I thought that trick looks super dumb.
I remember you hating that trick back in the day.
I don't know why. It's a fine trick, I guess.
Yeah, I like it. It feels good out of a round rail.
I think just a lot of people were doing them at the time, and I hated it. But I have a kind of a hard time with switch 360 flips. And Jay's good at them. He's like, oh yeah, I learned it by doing them out of switchback Smiths. So now I have to try to learn it that way. And I kind of like, I don't know.
That's funny.
I'll give it a shot. But yeah, those are my favorite and least favorite tricks.
Cool.
Although kickflip is the best trick and will always be the best trick. So that's my real favorite trick.
Yeah, kickflip's one of my favorites. An old park or obstacle you wish you could session again. You should answer this too. Oh, like I should answer it too. You go first.
Well, I've been trying to get you to go to the rendezvous spot for a while, and it's not happening. So
that's not an old thing.
Lots of the stuff there. That's all old to me.
All right, I guess so. But you still can. Like, it'll happen.
Yeah.
There's an event in a week, or we'll get there.
People. An obstacle I miss a lot is one of the low hairier obstacles.
The white ones, like the old...
Yeah, the kind of ceramic-y style ones. I remember Harry giving me like a really kind of small one, but it was long. And then there's this kind of quarter pipe on one side, ledge on the other side obstacle. It was really fun. I don't remember what it was called, but I don't have those, and I miss them a lot. They were super fun.
Yeah.
They made a nice squeaking sound when you did like blunt slides.
I love that material. And like how it would break in over time. It like got super shiny smooth in a way.
Harry, when you watch this, make some cool ramps again, please.
Yeah. He is making stuff here and there.
I haven't talked to anyone in over 10 years, so should probably do a little bit better job of reaching out to people. But when you don't use social media, that's kind of hard. So give and take.
Yeah, got to find the balance.
Yeah, I'll just see him when he comes here.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. How to do video parts.
You didn't answer the question.
Oh. The only thing that got stolen from me for sure is not the red table. There was a bonsai like barrier. Remember when I got that first Black River park ever?
Yeah.
And there was a barrier that it came with that was made from the same material that the ledges on that are. It's like that granite
barrier.
Marble.
I remember that barrier.
Yeah.
That got stolen.
It disappeared like a year or two after I got it. Like it was in that back room at my parents' house, and I had like a rendezvous or something. And then I didn't notice, but it was gone. Oh. And we looked everywhere, and it was really gone. And
that's lame.
Yeah, it had to have been stolen because it was on the park, and now it's gone. And like, that room is not even a fingerboard room anymore, which means like we've taken everything out of there. Yeah. So we know it's not in there, and we've gone through the whole house a million times for everything in general. You know, it's been so many years, we would have found it by now.
Yeah.
So I think that it got stolen probably. And that was a one-of-one, like, hand-carved from a stone in his backyard.
And that
like,
granite
chisel, dude.
Was really nice, too. That hubba ledge on that first park you got was amazing. That's another thing that I miss, that ledge.
Ledge. So good.
Someday. I'll be back.
All right, next question. Yeah, okay, we have almost the same question twice. One person said, how to do video parts? And the other person said, how do you film for an edit? So, cool. Similar.
Well, for me, making a video part, lately it starts with just hearing a song. I know I touched on this a little bit earlier, but just whatever song sounds cool, it's like it gives me ideas to do tricks. I've been keeping a trick list for stuff that I want to do for a new video part, but I also there were like 3 songs that really inspired me that I thought, oh, I could make 3 different parts to each one of these. So that's kind of just where I start. I haven't made trick lists in the past. I kind of just did what I did. Again, if you go back and watch any of my old footage, you're just going to see a lot of kickflips into things. Just variations of that, or maybe like switch shove-its and things.
You make it look good. That's all that matters.
I try. But yeah, I never really approached it in any particular way. It's like, oh, do you have a trick on this? Sure, just whatever I'm doing for that day. And then there are like some tricks, like maybe you get an idea for it and you're just kind of trying it in a session, and you might get close or you might not, and then you go back and film it later. I think a lot of the times too, especially if we were all filming together, you just set up a camera at a park and I would just do work. Like if there's a handrail on the park, I'm going to do a bunch of tricks on it. Like that's it. That's my favorite obstacle, is any handrail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and how to film parts, I don't know. I've never filmed myself really. You just get a camera, set it in one spot, and maybe move it sometimes so the footage isn't boring.
Yeah, but angles, I mean, I think putting thought into the angles is really helpful, actually.
Yeah. But with the stuff that I want to film now, like, I haven't mentioned it to you yet, but I do want to film an entire part at the park warehouse, but maybe like at night, and do some dramatic B-roll or something.
Yeah. Like
just put a lot of effort into one thing. That would be really fun. Good lighting. I really like the lighting on old Black River edits, where it's just kind of like a spotlight.
Yeah, it's like black in the background.
Yeah, Can't go wrong with that. Looks really good. Makes it easier to focus on tricks when you don't have clutter in the background. So a clean space goes a long way for just filming stuff.
Yeah, the way that it looks is totally better.
So just, be conscious of what you're doing. Don't just film random stuff. And then when you are filming tricks, I saw this a lot in the videos I was watching recently. There's so many sloppy tricks, or ride-on tricks. Why are you doing ride-on tricks with fingerboard? Like,
it feels good.
Sure, it's fun, but
it does feel good especially if your setup is like,
if you're just doing that in like a random edit,
it's kind of filler.
Put some more thought into it. Or say like if you're doing the kickflip nose grind or something and your tail dips down and flops all over the place and you're still counting that stuff, why are you filming that? It doesn't look good. It doesn't make you look good.
Yeah. Try
it again. And if you don't get it that session, come back to it,
That's good advice. Definitely.
Style is important. Style is much more important than what trick you're doing. Again, I'd much rather see just a plain, really nice crooked grind than a really bad kickflip crooked grind or nollie tray flip crooked grind, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I noticed for example, Jesse Braun lately in his last maybe few years has been doing more simple tricks. Mm-hmm. And for a while I was like, what are you doing, dude? You're so much better than that. I know you could nollie tray in and out of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do you want to just film a crook? And then at some point I realized how good he was making it look. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it just clicked. I was like, okay, now I get it. I see why he's doing simpler tricks these days, because the way that he's doing them is actually harder and better looking than 99% of anyone else who would do the same trick.
Yeah.
And once you notice that, it's so enjoyable to watch it.
Yeah. I'll go back to Nick Herzog again, because I watched that Rail Jam video today. The very first trick he does is just a nollie frontside crooked grind. But he does it so good that it doesn't matter that it's that basic.
The ways that his fingers are tucked and everything.
Yeah, he's just on the tips of his fingers. Yeah. It's all stylish. Or there are certain tricks that stick out a lot to me from the past that if I'm filming that trick, I'm going to try to do the trick like they do it. And Elias's switch flip frontside crooked grind.
Dude, you just read my mind. I was thinking of that when you said that.
That trick is so good.
That one does it for me too.
Especially I'm super jealous because I'm terrible at switch flips, but when I do them, I kind of have to lift my hand in a rainbow motion to get it to flip high enough. But he just straight fingers.
Yeah, snaps it
so good. Elias is so good. If you ever get to see him fingerboard in person, that's a treat. Same with Nick, and fortunately, I've gotten to see both of them. But he fingerboards with a lot of power, where it's Nick fingerboards with a lot of finesse. Mm-hmm. So it's two very different styles, but they're both really good.
Yeah, I agree. Those are incredible descriptions too. Yeah.
Same. It's same when I look at a lot of the people that were around now, like Jay, Chris, and you guys. You all fingerboard very differently than me. I was Jay's got a lot of finesse, but he can also do tricks in a really powerful way. And then Chris Petronic doesn't look like he's trying at all with any trick that he does. And he's doing ridiculously hard tricks. And then you're just do all this crazy technical stuff that I have no idea how you make your fingers do that. You have the most unique 360 shove it I've ever seen from anyone in fingerboarding, because you can pop it and then it just stays on your finger, but you're doing it this high. Yeah, I can't do that. I just flick it, and it's 2 inches, not even 2 inches off the ground.
The cool thing about that is, from my perspective, I'm Tim has the cool one. He doesn't have to stick it to his finger. I can't do it that way, and you can't do it my way. So it's that's the fun of fingerboarding and skateboarding.
Opposing styles, but that's usually how it works. Is the other person thinks the other way is better. But
I like them both, but it's just sometimes I wish I could do it that way.
Sometimes I wish I could do it the way that you do it, but I've tried.
So good.
You've told me what you're doing, but I just can't make my fingers do that. So. But that's fun.
Yeah, fingerboarding is just crazy how it's we all do the same tricks but different ways.
Yeah. But
skateboarding too.
what else do we have?
Manu Oberly says he's alive. Good to know.
Oh yeah, hi, hi Manu.
Yeah, that's
He
awesome.
sent me a couple boards a long time ago, and they were really good boards. It was that was the first board that I brought over to your house to use. Was one of his boards.
Like the first time we hung out?
Yeah, the very first time.
Wow, what year was that?
08.
How did we even meet? I mean, I was there, but tell the story.
We just met through FFI, and then same with Jay. And at the time, I was still living in Iowa because my wife was going to school. And my wife is originally from New Hampshire. So when she was done with school, we came back to New Hampshire. I'm originally from Iowa. And then Jay was from New Hampshire. And it's fun for me if I can relate to a person in some way. It's like, oh, I lived in New Hampshire before. Where do you live? Oh, I'm really close to there. Let's hang out. And me and Jay met up at a skate park in Londonderry, and we hung out. Cool. And he filmed some skateboarding, and we talked fingerboards and whatever. And then I was like, oh, you live in Massachusetts. You're only 45 minutes away. Like, that's super cool. Let's hang out. And I got out here, and I think at the time you were doing a rendezvous, but I had driven like 24 hours straight and was super tired and couldn't come to that. So I was like, oh yeah, we should hang out next week or whatever. And just invited me over, and
yeah,
we fingerboarded, and that's that. We hung out a bunch of times after that. So.
And how old were we when that happened? Because that was crazy.
I don't remember how old you were.
You're what, 7 years older than me, right?
Yeah, I think I was 22.
So I was tiny. I was like 15. And Jay was what, 17?
Yeah, something like that. Because I remember
crazy.
Your 16th birthday. I think I got you some orange Spitfire wheels or something.
Sick.
And there's just a bunch of people at your house, and we all had a good time.
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's really cool how fingerboarding and skateboarding just like go over every age group.
Yeah.
Like, I know people half my age and twice my age.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just have something in common, and it's like, that's all that matters.
Yeah. And at the time, it was kind of like, you feel kind of weird being like 20, hanging out with 15, 16-year-olds, but it's fine. You know, no one's weird.
Yeah.
And
it's the same as like when you're at the skate park and stuff. It's like you're just hanging out with people.
I remember we were all hanging out. We were about to go do that little demo thing at the Natural History Museum.
Oh, you went to that too?
Yeah.
Sick. I was just talking to Doug about that one.
There's actually you put up a video where you say I'm in the video, and it was around that time, and I'm not in the video.
Oh. You were there, but you didn't get any clips? Or
yeah,
what?
I don't know what was going on. But we were all in your living room. It was like me and Jay and Matt Lieber. And Matt Lieber was like, I'm 32. And I was so blown away that he was 32, and we were all like 10 years younger than him.
At least.
But that's cool. Matt Lieber is one of the coolest people that I've met through fingerboarding.
Yeah, he's awesome. I hope to reconnect with him sometime. I don't know what he's up to, but I mean, I see him a little bit on Instagram. He has a daughter.
It's wild.
Yeah. So cool.
We all have to grow up.
Yep.
Some sort of. But not really. Don't grow up. Just be responsible.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is like, if you can keep doing what you like to do, you're not going to get old. Like, you'll grow up and you'll have responsibilities and learn how to be serious in certain cases, but you also, you know, find the time to fingerboard, skateboard, build models, do anything you like to do, and you're not gonna turn into a grumpy old person.
Exactly.
If you keep the joy in your life.
I think a lot of people have poor outlooks on things because they don't have hobbies or something they enjoy.
Yep.
And that, like, just having a simple hobby can go a long way.
Huge.
You know?
It's like, it's everything. It's not everything, but it feels like it's everything, you know?
Like, going home and watching TV and just like getting drunk or whatever is not a hobby.
No, that's not a good idea.
Do something mildly constructive.
Yeah.
You know, crossword puzzle or whatever. Like my grandfather is a very unique example of something like this. His hobby was collecting ballpoint pens and writing family members' names over and over again on like yellow notepads. And he had the best handwriting I've ever seen in my life. But he just had hundreds of ballpoint pens, not even special ones, just regular Bic ballpoint pens. and he was perfectly content. So,
That's so cool. That's a unique one.
like, yes, he would yell at the TV when watching racing sometimes, but who doesn't?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just important to keep busy, whatever it is you like to do. And that story just shows too, like, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about what you're doing. It's like, if you're doing the thing you want to do,
then it's not a waste of time.
Like, I bet it's super meditative to be writing like that. You know, it's the same as if you're painting or sanding or making, you know, just doing anything. Like, making fingerboards is super, like, you just get lost in it. And, you know, if you're into penmanship, I'm sure it's the exact same.
Yeah.
So, super
it's wild,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unique, but, I mean, all this stuff is unique anyways. Like, somebody watching this thinks we're crazy, but I'm sure 99% of them are like, yeah, cool.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And if they think it's lame, then I don't care.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not for everyone, you know?
No.
If they made it this far into this episode and they don't
Good
think
job.
it's cool,
Yeah.
that's impressive. So that's a hobby in itself.
You must be really motivated to just waste your time watching stuff you hate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good on you. Right.
How about, I never heard this one, or maybe I did, but I don't remember right now. How did you meet your wife?
Oh, it was actually just really random. So I met my wife through America Online. That's
Sick.
like the actual AOL browser when that was
The
a
program,
thing.
not even the instant messenger?
So back when using the actual program and everything was built in.
Yeah.
I met her in 2003. And she just randomly messaged me because I liked skateboarding and anime, and that was in my little username profile. And we talked for a long time, and eventually she flew out to Iowa to meet me, which was a huge risk on her part because I could have been some weirdo, and she, I guess, on my part too, because she could have been weird. But so she flew out to meet me, and then like a month later, I flew out here and hung out with her because I was actually still in high school at the time, and my wife's a little bit older than I am. She's like two years older than me. And what ended up happening for me is I visited her, I went back, and I graduated high school early because I had enough credits that I could just take a couple classes through community college and graduate. And that's what I did. I took a week and I did both of those classes and passed them with like a B. It's like a sociology and an economics class or something, were the only two things I needed. And then moved out here to be with her. So we lived out here. I moved out here in December of 2003, and then we were out here for a while. We ended up going back to Iowa later in 2004, and then we got married in August of 2004, and we've been together ever since. So this year will be our 19th wedding anniversary, but 20th year together.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And she's great. She's super supportive and super good artist. So it's nice to have someone else who's creative around.
Yeah.
Bounce ideas off. And yeah, she's great.
That's amazing.
Can't fingerboard. That's okay.
As long as she supports you doing it, like, I feel like that's a big thing, like, in having a partner in general, is like, they don't need to like the things you like, but they just have to tolerate the sound of it. yeah, exactly. As long as they support you doing what you like and you support them doing what they like too, and you're a little bit understanding of each thing. Yeah. That's like the bare minimum, but that goes a long way. Yeah. If you have that, that's all you really need, like, in that department.
Yeah. And it's okay to disagree on things. Like our viewpoints on stuff they oppose all the time, but sometimes having her around to get the opposite side of it helps me understand things a lot more.
Totally. I have that same thing too, and it's like I grow a lot every time that happens. I love it.
And it's like, yeah, you might have some heated discussions sometimes, but you know, there is good that can come out of it.
There's a lot of good, because if you're only around people that agree with you on every little thing,
boring.
It's like all your weaknesses are going to get amplified. All your blind spots, you know, things you don't think about from other perspectives you're just stuck. And so if you have, like, I have a really wide range of friends that have every viewpoint on every subject you can imagine, and I love to hear all of them, and it's so cool. And then in my relationship, it's the same. Like, you know, a lot of things we get along exactly the same, and then certain things we have such different viewpoints, and then we come together, and it's almost like sometimes you form this new one that's in the middle that's like more grounded in reality than either side initially was, because you're like, okay, we each see the other side, and now we see that there's no single answer to this situation. It's actually like so nuanced that like you see the broader
and that's the way it should be. Like it's good to take on opposing viewpoints of stuff, but you have to both people in that discussion have to be reasonable people, because if you have one person who's way out here on a different extreme, it makes it a little bit harder to find common ground with them,
right?
Especially if they're not willing to listen to reason. So
I mean,
common sense goes a long way.
Definitely. You have to let down that barrier of like, I'm right because I put so much thought into this already. It's like, no, like actually leave that aside, and you can come back to that later, but put it aside. And
it's called continuous improvement, and everyone should try it.
Highly recommend it. Definitely. That's huge. Like a lot of people hold on to something because it's their identity. It's like what they have been, you know, it's how they have been to this point. It's how all their friends know them as a person who thinks a certain way or whatever. And then it's like, that's a part of why they don't even want to change or consider anything else, because it's like, well, then who will I be, and who will I have been? A person who was wrong? Like, but it's like,
that's
you
okay.
Can't.
You can be wrong.
You can
I'm
be
wrong all the time.
It's
just that's just life.
I embrace it when it happens, because it's like it's interesting. It's kind of funny sometimes, and it's really like it's just exciting at the end of it, because you're like, wow, now I'm even better.
Sometimes like it's kind of funny when you know people are wrong, but they just go at it with so much conviction that they convince you that they're right, but you know they're wrong. It's like, I thought you knew what you were talking about. A good example of this for me is when my wife and I go somewhere new, and she's giving me directions, and she's like, well, go here. And I know it's not right. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go with it and hope for the best. And then, then you're wrong. You're like, I should have done that other thing, but whatever. It's part of the fun.
Makes for a good adventure.
Getting lost. It's real easy to get lost in good old New England.
Oh, yeah. Dude, the bottom of your shoes is crazy.
Oh, yeah. These are some shoes, cameras. These are the Eric Ellington Li-Ning shoes. They're just a footwear brand out of China. And I like Eric Ellington a lot. He made a really cool pair of shoes, which is kind of where I got some of the inspiration for the board.
Similar gradient. That's sweet.
Kind of a vaporwave color scheme.
Oh yeah. I've never seen that on the bottom. Like that's crazy.
It's all like foam under here. There's not a lot of crazy tech into it. The whole midsole is just foam, so they're really comfortable. But they're supposed to be a skateboard shoe, and
supposed to be. Yeah, it looks like one.
I mean, when you get them on your feet, it's a little bit different of a story. I'm sure they perform fine, but they look more like a basketball shoe than a skateboard shoe, which is what he was going for.
Cool.
But I've had all of his America shoes, and they were all good, so I trust his judgment. And I'm going to put my dirty shoe back on.
I can't smell it.
My socks are clean. They were at the start of the day. Take showers. That's important too.
How often do you shower?
Every day, every other day.
Yeah, almost every day, but not always.
Yeah,
I think that's the way to do it. You don't want to like overdo it. Some people like take 2 showers a day. It's like not good for your skin.
Yeah, I have like sensitive skin anyway, so I don't want to dry it out too much.
Yeah. The only other question was, from the people who sent in questions, what are your other hobbies? But I feel like we covered that, unless, are there more that we didn't cover?
Not really. I mean, the only other thing that I used to do with some frequency was the video game stuff, but I talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. Do you still play any?
Sometimes. I haven't really touched any competitive fighting game in about a year.
That's not too long.
Like I played one game called Blaze Blue a lot. That was my main game from 2009 to like 2019.
Whoa.
So I played in a lot of tournaments. I did fairly well in most of them. I've only won like first place in one tournament, but I've made top 8 in pretty much all of the ones I've entered, which is good.
That's sweet. Is it like professional? Like,
is
there prizes and stuff?
Yeah, but it depends on what game you're playing. So for Blaze Blue in particular, if you're looking to make some money off that, that's not going to happen. I think my total grand winnings for playing Blaze Blue amount to like $20. So I just played because I liked playing. I really liked learning combos and just having intense matches. And that takes a lot of work if you're going to play competitively, because you have to know stuff like frame data and you have to practice some of these combos. Like most fighting games run on 60 FPS, and sometimes you only have one frame to do the combo.
Whoa.
So it takes a lot of practice.
Crazy.
But it's also like if you can do that really hard stuff and you can do it in a match and a lot of people are watching, it feels pretty cool. So I played a lot of Blaze Blue. The last version of that game came out in 2016, and it wasn't my most favorite version of the game. So I played it, did a couple tournaments, and then just kind of stopped playing it. And then I also played kind of a sister game to it called Guilty Gear, and they had a brand new game come out about a year ago, or a year and a half. Oh, maybe it was going on 2 years now. But I started playing that. And I played it for probably 8 months, and it just wasn't as captivating as some of the other games. So I thought maybe it was time to hang it up. But if something interesting comes out, I'll try it. There's a Street Fighter game coming out in a couple of weeks, but I don't know. I'll play that. But if someone wants to play Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear, I guess you can hit me up on PlayStation.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You probably get somebody. I bet there's somebody watching that's like, oh, dude, that's my favorite game.
Cool. It'll be fun. I haven't played in a long time. But
Rhombus is back. Rhombus, do you have any questions? She has one. She's like, what's your biggest challenge in life? It's Rhombus's question.
Yeah, deciding what to have for dinner. That's the most frequent game played in probably any relationship. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. Well, what do you want? Pizza. We're not having pizza again. Well, then we'll have whatever you want. I don't know what I want. That's usually how it goes in my house. Always like pizza is just the go-to.
Yeah. What do you like on your pizza?
Well, the most common one we get is just veggie pizza. So just like tomatoes, green peppers, olives, eggplant.
Oh, eggplant's like the only food on earth that I don't like.
It depends on how you get it. Like the pizza place we go to, they do eggplant parmesan on it, so it's breaded and fried, and that's okay. Like just trying to eat like regular eggplant, I don't really care for that.
Yeah, I would try it on something. Like, I mean, I always try it when I see it because I'm like, maybe this is the one I'll like.
Yeah,
and I'm always just like, no, still don't understand.
I like it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I had one bite of it, like one that I liked, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah. Just like a random preparation of eggplant that was not as bad as usual.
Yeah,
but I'll try it on pizza.
Yeah, if it's just raw eggplant, like baked, then probably not gonna be as good as a fried eggplant. But to each their own. Other pizza flavors, anything with bacon usually. Like bacon pineapple is super good.
I love that.
Classic pepperoni, you know, you just feel like eating something greasy. Like one of my favorite weekends that I had, like over the past year, we got pepperoni pizza and like some soda. And I don't drink a lot of soda anymore because it's not good for you.
That's a recurring theme as well.
It's delicious, but it's terrible for you.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to feel like I was 5 years old, so I got like some Mountain Dew and then some Milk Duds and other candy, and just watched Ninja Turtles, like Ninja Turtles 2 movie, and ate a bunch of pizza, and it was a good time.
That's awesome.
So everyone should try that.
Yeah, it's really fun to do those kind of like throwback things.
Yeah.
My throwback is that I had half of a bagel the other day for the first time in half a year.
What kind?
It's like these gluten-free bagels. It's just a plain bagel, but like the flavor is so good on it. I can't even describe.
Bagels
and like
are great.
if you put a little bit of butter or ghee on there and some garlic powder,
oh yeah,
the flavor is unbelievable. When you haven't had that in half a year, like I just been eating veggies and meat like pretty much exclusively, I guess. And just to have like one processed carbohydrate was crazy. So that was like cake for me, which is hilarious because I was just eating it like this is like it tastes like a donut. It's so sweet, and it's like literally a bagel.
Yeah, I like to eat bagels with tomato soup. That's good.
Oh, okay. Eggplant and tomato soup are my two like.
No, you don't do it.
Two things. I guess there are two things I don't like eating.
Why don't you like tomato soup?
Oh, dude, don't even say tomato soup. I don't know what it is about tomato soup, but it's just I don't like it.
That's fair.
I like almost every food, although now it doesn't seem like I do. But I like most things, but I don't like tomato soup. It's just like not in a soup, dude. Like I have
it's
trouble
fine if it's spaghetti sauce,
problem.
but no.
Yeah,
noodles,
no. I mean, like tomato sauce is totally better than tomato soup.
I guess it depends on the kind of tomato soup, because there are lots of different kinds.
I like chili, which is kind of tomato soup.
Yeah,
but it's
like a bisque.
I don't like the thinner tomato soups.
Yeah, so you probably like a tomato bisque because that's a pretty thick soup.
Yeah, give me a good one. I'll try like any food. If I say I don't like it, I'll still try it. But like tomato soup's gonna be like the last soup I go for. Unless somebody's like, try this one, it's really good, and I'll be like curious enough.
Yeah, I don't like mayonnaise. So if you put mayonnaise on something, then you've ruined it.
Dang, crazy. I love mayo. I didn't even know what mayo was till I went to Germany, and I thought it was like a German thing only because, I don't know, we never had mayo in my house growing up, and then like I would just eat foods that I was kind of familiar with or whatever. I'm sure I was eating mayo, like I know some sushi has mayo in it, but I didn't even know it. And then, I learned about mayo in Germany through fingerboarding on like fries. It's very common for them to use it as a dip for fries, and it's so good. I know you don't like it. I'm sorry, but it's amazing.
Not gonna happen.
Mayo with fries. What about ketchup mixed with mayo? Do you like that?
If you put mayo in anything, I refuse. It's gross.
Do you eat eggs?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, eggs is way different, but see, I didn't know what mayo was, so I didn't know it was made of eggs like for a long time.
Eggs and vinegar, and I hate vinegar. Like, why would you want to eat something that smells like feet? Don't understand.
What about cheese? Like cheese
is okay.
Do you like those gross smelling cheeses?
No. Like cheddar, white cheddar.
Yeah,
that's good. Swiss.
I like goat cheeses, sheep cheeses, like all the
feta cheese. Yeah, it's good.
They're easier to digest, so like. I'm like lactose intolerant, but I can do the sheep and the goat.
I grew up in the Midwest, so I was just force-fed dairy products.
Oh, dude, I was eating cereal with milk every day. I thought it was normal to have a stomach ache. Like nobody, like I literally thought it was normal for your stomach to hurt. That's how much I was doing. Like I was eating all the wrong things for a long time.
Live and learn.
Yeah. That's why it's good to like say things that are bothering you, like you mentioned before, like
especially if you have food allergies, you'll end up in a bad spot.
Oh, we had no idea though, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, why does my stomach hurt? I don't know.
Walk it off.
Yeah, who cares? Just get used to it. Like I literally got used to it for a long time, but now I know better and my stomach doesn't hurt that often, so
cool.
It helps. Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot of topics.
We have. This is probably a really good episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
let's say we're done.
We're done.
We're done.
Goodbye.
Yeah, that was an awesome chat.
Okay, cool.
Super fun.
Yeah.
I think